Hello, ambitious souls. Welcome back to another edition of the Monday Muse. Today, we're diving into a question that I get fairly often, which is how do I stay driven without burning out? But of course, it's usually termed like, but if I stop doing all the things, then I'll have no chance at success. And nothing could be farther from the truth. I mean, can I just say that the fact that we're asking this question at all is such an example of how we have been conditioned to think about success. Like somehow being exhausted is proof that we're doing it right. I believed this hook, line, and sinker my whole life. I didn't realize it. It was an unconscious belief. But think about how many times you talk to people, or maybe you find yourself saying, oh, I'm just so busy. I'm just so busy. I wore that busyness like it was a badge of honor. Okay, so today we're flipping the script completely, because what if I told you that burnout was not inevitable? What if sustainable drive is actually more powerful than the crash and burn approach that we have been taught to embrace? The uber successful people that we know are not grinding 24/7. They're the ones who have just figured out how to work in harmony with their energy instead of against it. And before you start thinking like, oh my God, here we go, another life balance talk, this is nothing to do with life work balance. This has to do with how you manage your energy. So let me start by talking about what is everywhere, and that is our addiction to urgency. We've lost the ability to really discern what is urgent and what isn't. So we're pressing hot buttons at every Tom, Dick, and Harry item that comes across our desk. Everything's urgent, everything's a fire, and everything needs our attention immediately. But here's what I've learned. Urgency can sometimes just be anxiety dressed up like productivity. When we're constantly in crisis mode, we feel important. I know I do. If I'm multitasking on my computer, my phone's ticking, and I've got a client happening soon, and I feel, or at least my parts do, my ego parts do, we feel needed. It feels like we're making progress. But the truth is that we're actually just spinning our wheels. And it's been proven that multitasking does not work. It actually means you do less productively, instead of more quicker. You know, this came to me a couple of years ago when I realized that I was working at such a ridiculous pace, and I found myself constantly checking my email, constantly checking my text, always feeling like I was forgetting something or leaving something behind, or that there was something that I had to do. And then it occurred to me like, wait a minute, according to who? And on whose timeline? What has to be done? Most of the urgency that we feel is manufactured. It's not real. It's our nervous system stuck in overdrive, mistaking busy for productive and mistaking stress for importance. I know that's a hard one to swallow, but here's a concept that I want you to think about. Think about your energy as currency. Just like money, you have a finite amount every day. And so what if you thought about your energy, like let's say you had 100 units of energy and you decided, well, how do I want to invest them? Maybe 40 units goes to your most important project. Maybe 20 units go to the difficult conversation that you've been avoiding. Maybe 15 go to connecting with the people that you love. And what if you reserve 25 for just rest and play? Oh my good Lord, what would that be like? See, most of us treat energy like it's unlimited. And we fear saying no to things. We say yes to everything. But how many of us, I know I do, have the experience of where you just hit a wall? You do that day after day after day, week after week after week. And for me, and I know I have friends I've spoken with about this before, it's like, at some point, the wall just hits and my mind is completely blank, and all I can do is stare at a TV screen. And then I know, oh my gosh, well, I just did it again. I lost myself in all of this busyness in my nervous system. I lost myself in my nervous system. So it's really important to be strategic with your most important resource. And we tend to think, because we've been conditioned to think, that resting or even, vegging out, watching TV or something is bad. It's unproductive. But actually, your personality parts need that. It can be a way of true rest if you use it that way, whatever it is. Maybe you're reading a book, maybe you're going on a walk, maybe you're staring into space. I don't care, but you must tend to the energy of your body and rejuvenating it so that you have enough to sustain it over time. And of course, we talk about techniques, heart math and positive intelligence and ways to breathe energy back into your body. And those are important. But when we're looking around this as like an umbrella of like, how do I treat my finite amount of energy each day, and beginning to recognize that I'm being driven by this faulty assumption that success means to drive. That's another part of this story. And here's something that nobody really talks about either. Ambition comes in seasons. I mean, if you follow the planets and the stars and all that, which I don't, but I have a friend who sends me these hysterical Instagram reels about what's happening for Gemini right now, what's happening for Pisces right now. And I'm always like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. But the fact of the matter is that there are seasons for these types of things. And we know this because you can look back on your past and you can see when you were really productive, when were you really creative, and then when were you just kind of metabolizing, you were just kind of integrating, when were you sort of hibernating and processing things. We need to do those things. That's our human part of us. So just like a garden, there's times for planting, there's times for seeding, there's times for plucking, there's times for growing, but we've been conditioned to think that we are supposed to be harvesting constantly. Go, produce, more. And that's not how anything in nature works. So why would we work that way? I mean, even the most productive farmers know that soil needs to rest between seasons or it will become depleted and it won't grow. So your soul works the same way. There are seasons when you're meant to push forward, to take on new challenges and to expand. And then there's seasons when you're meant to integrate and reflect and restore. And believe me, when I started realizing this, I would have these long periods of time where I wasn't doing anything. And all I would be doing was beating myself up about how I wasn't doing anything because I wasn't able to be creative and I wasn't able to think and I didn't know what I was doing next. And I just spent all this time in mass confusion. What I know now is that was my body trying to say, this is not your time to produce. This is your time to reflect and to integrate. And when you come through this period of time, then you will have something to bring out. And that's exactly what has happened and continues to happen. I have bursts of creativity and then they subside. And I'm learning something new and I'm integrating it, right? And based on our signs and all that kind of stuff, we all do these things differently. I'm a Gemini, so I tend to like do 75 things at once. That tends to be my personality. But even with that, there are times where I am meant to just stop and integrate and process and rest. And then if I do that, if I allow that to happen, my creations, when I come out of that season, are 10,000 times better and come to me much, much faster. So let's get practical about this, okay? Let's think about this in 3 steps: alignment, rhythm, and recovery. So alignment means that your actions are connected to your deeper why. Whatever you do for your work or in your life, what is your deeper why for doing it? And this is something we lose sight of constantly because when we get into our jobs, we usually feel lots of inspiration and joy. But after a while, when life happens, now it's efforting and we completely forget why we started what we're doing. So have your why somewhere very prominent. I know that whatever you're doing because there's some part of you that feels very passionate about it, that feels strongly about it, because that's why we do anything. Unless we're doing a job in the meantime, just to get by while we're working on what's really important to us. So what is your why behind your business or your position? That's usually has something to do with the person that you're serving. Make sure you're in alignment there, because when you're in alignment, the work you're doing doesn't feel like work because you're just driven by your excitement for what you're bringing into the world. So a while back, I had, 2 businesses and I was working like a crazy person. And when I really sat down and was like, okay, what's most in alignment? I realized that, speaking and training and doing the deep dive executive coaching that I do is much more in alignment than what I was doing when I had added a weight loss program that I was excited about. My deeper why has more to do with what I'm doing now. So I let go of that one thing, which was hard at the time, but it's created so much room and so much energy in my business and my life. So the second part is rhythm. This is really key. It's about working with your natural energy patterns instead of against them. So are you a morning person or are you a night owl? Some people just naturally wake up early in the morning. Some people naturally are more alert at night. I'm more alert in the morning. I get lots done first thing in the morning. And then by mid-afternoon, I kind of peter out a little bit. Do you need people Or do you need time on your own to recharge? Are you an introvert or an extrovert, basically, is what that means, right? I used to think that I recharged by talking to people, and I love talking to people. But what I learned, especially during COVID, I think a lot of us, what we thought were extroverts, learned during COVID that we might be introverts. Or I don't know, maybe that's just a COVID syndrome. But for me, I learned like, whoa, actually, I rejuvenate a lot by going in. And so I realized I needed to take that time. So I used to just try and be productive all day. And when I couldn't be, I would beat myself up. But now I take it in bursts, right? Like there's 3 or 4 hour chunks. And then in the middle of the day now is when I typically exercise. And then maybe I've got a couple more hours toward the end of the day in me, but not much more than that. Then I'm kind of, family time. And then third, recovery. And this is about restoring your energy through things that light you up. So it could be exercise. It could be cooking. It could be being in nature. It could be doing some practical exercises like heart focused breathing to literally restore your energy. It could be going to movies. It could be spending time with your family. It could be creative. What is it that lights you up? It could be sitting on the couch and reading a book. What is it that just sort of brings you peace and calm and makes your heart sing? And then finally, let's talk about the long game. Burnout happens when we're so focused on our short-term results that we sacrifice our long-term sustainability. But what's really hard for us to believe is that success isn't about how fast you get there or even where you're going. And I know we all know this, but we don't really take it in. What if success is not, it's about the journey, but not just about the journey. What if it's about how long you can stay there once you get there? Because building something methodically and slowly and sustainably instead of quickly and unsustainably is a lot more gratifying. So this means making decisions on what's best for your future self, not just your current ambitions, which is naturally going to mean that you're going to have to say no to some things. It also means choosing progress over perfection. It means choosing consistency over intensity. Your ego might not like this because it might not feel as important, but your body's going to love it because it's going to be more relaxed. So you don't have to choose between being ambitious and being well. You don't have to sacrifice your sanity for success. The world needs what you have to offer, but it needs for you to be alive while you're offering it. It needs your energy, everything involved with your bringing it into the world. So here's your homework for the week. Pick one area of your life where you've been pushing hard and ask yourself, how can I approach this with more ease? Maybe it's batching your emails instead of looking at them all the time. You pick one time that you're going to look at them, 1 or 2 times a day. Maybe it's taking a lunch break. Maybe it's saying no to one thing so you can better say yes to something else. And remember, rest is not the reward for finishing your work. Rest is what makes the work possible in the first place. If this episode hit home for you, I'd love to hear about it. Send me a DM on YouTube or Instagram and tell me what part resonated with you most. And if you know someone who's been struggling with this, share it, because sometimes we all need permission just to be able to slow down. Next week, we're going to dive into another question that I hear all the time. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button below so you're not sure not to miss it. Until then, remember, you are not a machine. You are a human being having a human experience. And that means you get to work in harmony with your humanity, not in spite of it. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next Monday.